Hello, welcome to European Open briefing for Tuesday, October 30th. I'm Rafi Boyajian, currency analyst at xm.com, and we're going to be having a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. It's another day of fairly mixed sentiment in the markets this morning. We can see that most indices in Asia turned positive towards the close. We saw sharp gains in China after authorities there pledged more support for the economy. In Europe, though, we're seeing most major indices starting the day in negative territory following losses overnight on Wall Street. So yesterday, President Trump threatened more tariffs on China, so that did weigh on US stocks, but it also did help the greenback, which since the trade wars with China started has been acting as a safe haven every time the tensions escalated. So we can see the dollar index currently up by around 0.14% at 96.71. Dollar yen also moving higher. The Japanese yen, in fact, hasn't really reacted that much to the latest developments on the trade front following those remarks by President Trump. The yen is perhaps being affected by month-end flows, so is broadly weaker this morning, though overall the risk off has eased over the past couple of days, though neither you could say that we have a strong risk appetite either. If we have a look at what's happening to European currencies, we can see the euro still trading below the 1.14 level at 1.1368 at the moment. Sterling also down against the US dollar at 1.2769 at the moment. Yesterday we had the UK budget announcement where we saw some increases in spending and some tax cuts, which should provide some boost to the UK economy, and also the budget was designed in a way to unify the Conservative Party behind Theresa May and her Brexit plans. So overall, the budget should have been positive for sterling, but we're seeing the pound pretty much following the euro lower, but also as the uncertainty goes on regarding Brexit as we head towards November, where we should see those talks being stepped up. So a lot of uncertainty still around Brexit, so that's mainly weighing on sterling. If you look at the Australian dollar, it's actually up by around close to 0.5% at 0.7089 at the moment. Kiwi is also up sharply. We did see the rebound in Chinese stocks helping the Australian dollar. The yuan early in the Asian session had touched a 10-year low before it started to head back up again against the US dollar, so that also helped the Australian dollar. If you look at commodities, we can see oil prices, though, still being weighed by that gloomier global growth outlook, which could impact oil demand. WTI down by 0.25 percentage points at the moment at $66.87 a barrel. Gold is also slightly lower, mainly as the US dollar continues to rise. And having a look at the main performers, despite that fragile risk sentiment, we can see both the Aussie and the Kiwi at the top of the table this morning, with gold at the very bottom. Having a look at the dollar-yen pair now in more detail, we can see dollar yen has been moving higher, recovering sharply above the 112 level and off those lows where it briefly fell below 111.40. So we're seeing a broadly weaker yen this morning, and of course those some safe haven bid for the US dollar on the back of those comments by President Trump, where he threatened to impose tariffs on the remaining imports from China in December. So that announcement could come in early December if the summit, if the talks between the US and Chinese presidents at the G20 summit at the end of November don't produce any results. Then we could get an announcement at the beginning of of December. But overall, though, we can see market sentiment, market traders haven't reacted too strongly to those remarks. Dollar yen has climbed to 1-week high, 112.85. Dollar index holding close to last Friday's 10-week highs. So also boosting the markets. The main reason boosting Chinese markets this morning was the announcement for the local stock market, as well as further measures to improve lending to small firms in China. And also, in addition to the comments regarding tariffs, President Trump did also actually say, I think we will make a great deal with China. So he's optimistic that a deal will be made eventually. So that perhaps also boosted market sentiment. If you have a look at the onshore yuan trading this morning, though, we can see dollar yuan spiking to 10-year high of 6.9711. So it is getting closer and closer to that critical psychological 7 level. At the moment, the yuan is doing slightly better. It has firmed to around 6.9612, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the People's Bank of China will step in to prevent further declines in the yuan, especially whether or not it's going to allow it to rise beyond the 7 level. And finally, having a look at the euro, because the euro continues to struggle. We had news yesterday that the German Chancellor Angela Merkel will not stand for re-election as party chairwoman at elections in December, and she will also be stepping down as Chancellor in 2021 when her term expires. So that has cast some doubt about the future of the European Union itself, as Merkel has been the main driver of leadership and reforms in the EU. But there was perhaps some good news for the euro coming from Italy after reports saying that any possible savings made from the 2019 budget could be used to reduce the deficit rather than to allocate it for any additional spending. So that perhaps is a suggestion that the Italian government is willing to make some compromises to the EU. But overall, the euro remains very much bearish at the moment and very close to Friday's 10-week lows. And looking at what's coming up later today, we've got the Eurozone GDP numbers coming up shortly, and followed by the US Consumer Confidence Index later on in the North American session. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.